Monday, July 29th, one day before pads are put on, plays are made, good and bad, by the Las Vegas Raiders in training camp. And that's when the rubber really hits the road, because we could talk all the livelong day about people practicing without pads, even though it is 11 on 11. But when the pads are put on, that's when you find out which kind of competitions are leaning a certain way. We're going to get into some reporting about how Gardner Minshew is faring against Aidan O'Connell. There's a Jacorian Bennett piece I want to talk about. And last but not least, the defensive line is absolutely wreaking havoc. We're going to get into the Aidan O'Connell, Gardner Minshew battle right now. There are some big-time reports coming out from people, insiders who have been there, who have talked about why potentially Aidan has already extended his lead versus Gardner Minshew, which is something that most of us thought was going to happen in the first place. Really quickly, before we get into all that, make sure you're hitting that sub button. We're trying to get to 10,000 before the new league year. Around 70% of you who are watching are not subscribed yet. You come back for more each and every time, which I thank you for. If you could just hit that sub button, that would mean a lot to me. We're trying to get to 10K before the new league year. Let's do it. I was watching a little Hondo Carpenter, and he had suggested that Aidan O'Connell was leading coming into training camp, and he's nothing but extended his lead. And the reason for that is because not only is he showing development in terms of decision-making, learning the playbook, making the right reads, and showing off his accurate and strong arm, but he's not turning the ball over. And when you hear Antonio Pierce talk about what he needs at quarterback, he needs someone who is going to be consistent and who is going to protect the football. And not only is Aidan O'Connell showing a willingness to throw the ball away when the play's not there, the opposite could be said about how Gardner Minshew is playing thus far. I have an article pulled up here about Gardner Minshew and about how he potentially might already be losing the job. This is SB Nation, Silver and Black Pride. The title of the article is Raiders Quarterback Battle. Is Gardner Minshew playing his way right out of the starting job? And the first thing it says here is, of course, the battle of the starting quarterbacks, incumbent Aidan O'Connell and veteran Gardner Minshew, has been the main focal point of practices. There is still a long way to go before the team's brass makes its decision. The team has most of training camp and 3 preseason games, which begins August 10th at Minnesota, before making that decision. And then it shows a tweet from Vic Tafer. It says, Minshew can scramble and make plays under pressure more than Aidan O'Connell, but that has backfired at times. Feel like Getsy was talking to him today. That's the first thing you need to understand. Minshew's ability to scramble outside the pocket and make plays on the run, a la Kenny Stabler, was the main draw to potentially playing him instead of Aidan O'Connell, because he's not stronger and he's not more accurate. His ability to make plays outside the pocket is what separates him. But if that's backfiring and it's not going the way that it usually does for him consistently, maybe he's nervous because he's got so many weapons. He's trying to make this play. He doesn't want to give up. He doesn't want to throw the ball away. And he's turning these plays, which could be just 2nd and 10s, into 2nd and 17s, because he's throwing a pass errantly, intentional grounding, getting sacked, throwing a pick. That's not a good sign for Gardner Minshew. It says, while it's still early, Minshew, a journeyman who played 13 games for the Colts last season, has been making some mistakes and throwing some interceptions while trying to make something happen thus far in training camp. Meanwhile, O'Connell, who is less mobile than Minshew, has been more steady because he hasn't tried to do too much. While Minshew's style opens up possibilities, it's also risky. Do you think this will cost Gardner Minshew the job, or will his wild nature benefit the offseason? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so there you go. There you have it. Aidan O'Connell is not trying to be a superhero at the quarterback position, which is an exact quote from Antonio Pierce. We do not need a superhero at quarterback. And the reason why I've been so high on Aidan versus Gardner in terms of Antonio Pierce's vision is that Antonio Pierce's quarterback, when he won a Super Bowl, was Eli Manning. Now, Eli Manning is a 2-time Super Bowl MVP. Can Aidan O'Connell be that? Probably not, right? The similarities they have is that they're not outspoken vocal leaders. They do speak and lead by example, and they do talk, but they just run the game plan. They make a play every now and again when they have to, and they limit the risks they are taking. Aidan O'Connell feels a lot of Eli Manning in that way. And in terms of not being a superhero and just distributing the ball like a point guard rather than a James Harden type, that's what this offense needs. If you're comparing him to basketball players, where Gardner Minshew feels like that James Harden step back 3, could be an air ball, could be an and one, Aidan O'Connell feels much more like that Chris Paul. Steady game plan, distribute the ball all around the field. And that's why he's been able to take a leap. Now, I wish in a perfect world that Aidan and Gardner were both just amazing, and it was a tough time deciding who was better, but we went with Aidan because he was just playing so much better than him. That doesn't seem to be the case right now. It seems like Aidan is progressing at the normal rate, still making some mistakes, but looking better than he did last year. And Gardner, whether he's wilting under the pressure of being in a quarterback competition or wilting under the pressure of getting Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers the ball, his moxie and his scrambling ability seems to be biting him in the ass right now, which is not something we need, because we saw with Jimmy Garoppolo, his ability to make plays and scramble outside the pocket did not sit well with our star wide receiver. It didn't sit well with our owner. It didn't sit well with the fans, and it's not going to sit well next year if Gardner Minshew starts and does the same shit, and then we got to bring Aidan O'Connell in to save the day yet again. I think I've been saying it since day one. It's Aidan's job to lose, and he's only widened his gap. Now, that means absolutely nothing if the pads come on and people play differently. Maybe Gardner Minshew is one of those guys that doesn't really play well in practice, and then when the lights slip on, he turns into a superstar, right? A superstar, relatively speaking. These people exist. We all know people, whether you played in high school, college, or pros, any athlete, you know, they kind of screw around in practice. Not screw around in terms of they don't care, but they kind of make mistakes. And then when the game starts, when that clock strikes and starts ticking down, they turn it on. And there's not anything to explain why that happens. It's just when the game's on the line, a switch flips and they start balling out. And maybe that could be the case for Gardner Minshew. And maybe that'd be the case for Aidan O'Connell. Maybe he plays way better in the games and at pads than he does on 7-on-7 drills. Only time will tell, but I think it's pretty clear at this point the quarterback competitions is Aidan O'Connell's to lose. I'm not breaking any news there. The only thing we should probably be talking about is that the only thing that Gardner had that was significantly better than Aidan was his ability to scramble and make plays outside the pocket off script. And that even doesn't seem to be working right now. So if that's not working, Gardner Minshew's got no value in terms of being a starter. He could be a good backup, but that's about it. There are also reports coming out of camp that Jacorian Bennett is beating out Brandon Faison to be the CB2. Now, similarly to the Aidan situation and the Gardner situation, it's a mix of Jacorian playing a little bit better than we thought he would be, and Brandon Faison not playing well at all. Again, pads are not on. Only time will tell, and this defense is going up against some great offensive weapons, especially one-on-one type guys who could shake you and shift you out of your shoes. But apparently, Jacorian Bennett has taken the bull by the horns and is leading the locker room to be that CB2 behind Jack Jones with Nate Hobbs in the slot. And that's kind of rearing its head in a good way because we have not gone out of the way to fill that CB2 position. I think Tom Telesco, AP, and Patrick Graham have shown us they're comfortable with JB being the CB2 because they haven't gone out and gotten anybody else. And Jacorian Bennett was actually talking about this, and he said, yeah, you know, I never lost my confidence. I was just grinding last year. I got hurt. I was thrown into the fire. I feel more comfortable. I got another year in the system. I'm going to play better. And the thing he discussed was the defensive line makes it easy to play corner right now because you don't have to cover for too long. And I believe he said it's mind-blowing or it's speechless, which brings me to the defensive line. Apparently, they have been just destroying the Raiders' offensive line to the point where it's kind of hard to run a lot of plays because Max Crosby is cooking these guys. Christian Wilkins, Kuntz. I've heard whispers that Tyree Wilson is flying around the field, that not only is he bigger and stronger, but he's faster and somehow more lean. Even though he got bigger, it's all muscle. The idea that we didn't have to spend more money to go get a CB2, not only because Jacorian Bennett is playing well, but because the defensive line has been so dominant that we don't have to cover these guys for more than a couple seconds, is going to help us tremendously in games where we're playing offenses who have a better quarterback than we do, which is going to happen every now and again. The Chargers, the Chiefs, right? There are teams we're going to have to play that have an advantage at quarterback. That's just the reality of the situation. And instead of trying to outscore them, our best chance to stop them is to muddy the waters in the pocket. And the idea that the defensive line is playing so well that Jacorian Bennett is up in a press conference saying it's honestly leaving me speechless to see how well they are playing and how easy it's making our lives. That's big time. So, pads tomorrow. That's all I got to say about this video, about this level of training camp. I'm excited. Preseason's coming. What are your thoughts? Comment below. Let me know. Check out the Patreon, patreon.com/ALLaBorde Raiders. Link is in the description below. $5. You could try it, and if you don't like it, that's all right. You sign up. It's like the YouTube membership thing. You get your name at the end of the credits. You get videos like this days in advance. You get exclusive content. Please be sure to subscribe. It is free after all, no charge to you. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.